from Castle Goring. The whuppies are growing like topsy, and they are upstairs fast asleep, and Mickey is taking a break from them down here with her Matty Boo, aren't you, Mix? So, without further ado, I will plunge right in. Den Bray says, Lady C, have you seen the proposals to erect a set of screens to shield Her Majesty from public gaze when she attends Westminster Abbey for Prince Philip's memorial service? I am pretty sure that it is not Her Majesty calling for screens. It's her woke aides. We are very fortunate to have been invited to one of the Queen's garden parties at Buckingham Palace in May 2019. At the end of the afternoon, as one of about 40 wheelchair users present amongst the 8,000 attending that day, were instructed to go to the side of the palace below the swimming pool where the Queen would pass on the way back to the residence. We thought that after a long, tiring day and afternoon, meeting and chatting to people, that she would be swept past on a golf buggy giving the royal wave. Oh dear, I have to laugh, sorry. No such thing. She walked accompanied by the Gloucesters, both Kent brothers and spouses, Eugenie, Beatrice and Harry, along the line and spoke to all wheelchair users. Erecting a screened walkway would just emphasize the fact of her need for a mobility aid. It goes back to the old saying, ignoring the person. Does she take sugar? It's the person, not the chair. That is important. What is your opinion? Well, you have touched upon a very sensitive subject, I have to tell you. And I do not agree that it's her woke advisors. My understanding is that the Queen does not want to have the loss of dignity that will be involved if she is seen struggling. She was very cross when that photograph of Princess Margaret in a wheelchair with the glasses was taken. She thought it was infra-dig. It should never have been taken. She was furious with Billy, was that his name? William Talon. Yeah, she was furious with him. And at least that's what I was told. And that she thought it was wildly inappropriate. She doesn't want a repetition of anything of this nature. She doesn't want a picture of herself appearing in magazines, in the newspapers. She doesn't want cinematography footing of her struggling. No, it's undignified, and I agree with her. Better to just get her in situ so the car pulls up. Nobody sees her getting out. Nobody sees the struggle involved as she makes her way up to her seat. It's seamless. It's much more dignified. You know, I understand why people stand on their dignity. I think others can strip you of many things, but rarely only you can strip yourself of your dignity. And if you have dignity, You do not want to surrender it. People who have dignity don't like pity. I think that is a lesson that some other members of her family would be well advised to learn. Pity fests are very undignified. So I hope that answers the question. And on the subject of the Queen's health, I don't want to say too much. Regrettably, I have information that I would not be willing to share generally. But I think it is apparent to most people that the Queen is fading and has faded significantly in the last year. Make no mistake about it. Stress and distress are terrible things to cope with at any age. But I think the David Boyces, the Virginia Giuffres, the Harrys and the Meghans of this world could consider the consequences of their actions insofar as Her Majesty's health and well-being have been concerned. I don't think I want to say more than that. At least not at this point. Actually, I do want to say more. It would be very nice if Harry would get it through his thick skull that it's not a game. All that I'm trying to struggle to come up with a polite word. All that therapeutic. My family's toxic. My family's toxic. Well, in the early stages of therapy, most people have that sort of take on their family. It's later on down the line that they come to realize that everybody has a story. And everybody's story deserves to be not only be heard, but weighed and factored into the equation. I do know that Harry's progress has been significantly advanced by Meghan's, it's Meghan, sorry. My mouth slipped. I was thinking of Iago pouring all that poison into Othello's air about Desdemona. And I suppose, in my own pathetic little way, I made the link. Well, Harry needs to understand he is a significant contributor to his grandmother's condition, and he needs to do something about it. He needs to understand life is precious. Beloved grandparents are irreplaceable. He missed his grandfather's death. He contributed to the discomfort of the last few months. Now, if Meghan and Harry wish to pay back and settle scores with Prince Philip and the Queen, because they thought that maybe Harry should consider the consequences of marrying a woman of Meghan's disposition. Do they deserve to be punished? Do they deserve to have the last days of their life blighted? Do they deserve to be penalised to the extent that they are being penalised? And he, the Duke of Edinburgh, was. Will he one day wake up and think, good God, what did I do? He better wake up before it's too late. Otherwise, his supposedly beloved grandmother, who he's supposed to love so much, but the actions don't match the words, will be sped along to eternity, gratis Harry. I hope that he will actually wake up and, as the Americans say, smell the coffee. And on that note, I will go to question number 2. Nandini Eves says, Lady C, thank you for your compassionate and balanced view. Very much appreciated. Whatever she is still a human being. Nandini Eves, of course, is referring to the previous video and the reported comment that Meghan is supposed to have made to a friend when she was a teenager about her identity. Now, several doctors have written in to me, and medical people, some publicly, some privately, to say that at the time that this comment would have been made, that intersexuality was a hot topic amongst young people. And it is therefore possible, as I think I conveyed in my previous video, that Meghan was simply jumping on a bandwagon. Maybe she displayed the tendencies of bandwagon jumping as a teenager as well as in the present. And yes, if it's true, and I'm not really sure it is, I've got to tell you, there's so much opacity where Meghan is concerned. Too much opacity. Discomforting lack of transparency. Discomforting presence of questions. Unwarranted in the norm questions that seem to have arisen because of the way she conducts herself. I'm not so sure I would believe anything that Meghan says or is alleged to have said. You know, I actually ended up feeling this about my ex-husband because in the morning he liked coffee, in the afternoon he loathed coffee, in the evening he had never had a cup of coffee. It applied not only to taste, but to everything else. So in the morning it was one version, in the afternoon it was another, in the evening it was a third. I mean, people like that are like an egg beater in your brain. But you learn to not rely on one thing they say, because it's safer to understand that an unreliable person should never be relied upon than to try to sift through what is fact and what is fiction. But big if, it turned out to have been true, of course she's a human being, and of course she's entitled to compassion. And I would imagine, as more than one person has said, that she would get a tremendous amount of compassion. She would get many a free pass, which, as more than one observer observed in the comment section, might be why this story was fed to me. Interesting theory, no? Mary Walsh says, I think Meghan has a body that is normal. So we're now going to hopefully show both sides of the coin. There are many variations on normal. I couldn't agree more. I also think she was pregnant. She put on weight both times. No, her legs did not gain, but I have seen many pregnant women who did not gain weight in their legs. Her belly rubbing and coat flicking were part and parcel of her constant need to be the centre of attention. Having Archie in another hospital and not showing him on the steps was in line with her thumbing her nose at all royal protocol, due to her grandiosity and need for control. Her narcissistic behaviour does cause speculation and suspicion. I agree that suspicion is warranted, and what you say, Lady C, is a plausible explanation, but to me it is a remote one. Sorry. Mary Walsh, you have a very balanced, considered, and I would say deserving of consideration comment. You know, what you have said could simply be the facts. Really. It is a possibility. There are other possibilities, but that is certainly one. And in life, I have often said, one should always opt for the ordinary over the extraordinary explanation, unless you know as a fact that the extraordinary explanation trumps the ordinary one. Kuhio Zion says, Lady Colin Campbell, question, 5 stars. What do you know about the specific circumstances surrounding Megxit? I have read many times that Megxit occurred because Meghalaya, oh dear, that Oprah interview, will she ever live it down, told the Queen to drop dead. Allegedly, Meghalaya said that because the Queen had told Meghalaya that Meghalaya and Hapless could live in Frogmore Cottage instead of the palace. I think the Queen replied coolly to the drop-dead remark by saying calmly, get out of the UK. Wonderful scenario. Wonderful. Well, let's see how credible it is. Let me continue with the question, however. So then Megxit was on. Meghalaya and Markle fled to Vancouver Island, Canada winter 2020, and Hapless stayed behind to sign papers. After signing a lot of papers, Hapless then flew to Vancouver Island, Canada. Lady C, I would love to hear what you may have heard was the cause of Megxit. Kuhil Zion, very entertaining. No, I do not believe that Meghan told the Queen to drop dead. I have no doubt that if Meghan disagrees with something that anybody says, whether it is the Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, as well as several of the Commonwealth countries, or anybody else, she would say, not necessarily to their face though, that they can drop dead. But my understanding is that Meghan was careful to display a veneer of respect for the Queen, face to face, that she has not actually displayed behind her back. Now, we only need to remember the message. Who the heck does that old woman think she is? I mean, she's just the Queen of England. She doesn't own the word royal. Who the hell does she think she is? I mean, really? You know, I'm a proud, confident woman of colour. I was a star in Suits. I was a megastar. Who is this woman? Just because she thinks she's the Queen of England, she thinks she's going to be able to tell me what I can do with Royal Sussex? I mean, who does she think she is? Well, that's the attitude, and people have picked up on it. But I think just because this thread existed doesn't mean that we should actually embroider the cushion. So no, my understanding is that Megxit was a very simple and straightforward thing. Meghan wanted to monetize rather than give away her royal status. She didn't want to be bothered to have to go and cut ribbons, speak to mayors, visit poor people, and even rich people, to whom she was often shockingly rude, incidentally. Unless she was paid good money. She understands that Sarah York got £300,000 as a divorce settlement. She understands giving the milk away doesn't buy you a farm. You need to sell the milk to buy the land, to have the cattle on the farm. My understanding is it was purely about money. Actually, it's not purely. That's slight solecism. It's not only about money. It was also about calling the shots. She didn't like the fact that the royal system required that, and I've said this before, it's like a dance troupe. It's like a chorus line, actually. Each one does their high kick in time to the music and in accordance with the choreography. She and Harry wanted to be able, and she wanted to be able to high kick throughout the whole of the dance. Look at how great I am. I can high kick. Whoop, 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 whoop. While everybody else is supposed to be in the background, each just doing their little high kick while she did it the whole time. So it really was about money and attention. And I think you've picked up the disparagement that she has shown publicly, and my understanding is has not only shown privately, but we see the effects of it, where, for instance, they, and remember, it's not only her, it's Harry, are playing the security issue like a violin. They're like Jascha Heifetz on the violin, or David Oistrakh. And they are playing that violin for all it's worth to get what they want. And it's about money, status. They call the shots, and everybody else has to fall into line. Carefree Delight says, do you think Meghan is opening up that she was intersex because it is an acceptable and sympathetic context for her lying to the public about her surrogacy, etc.? Well, my dear, with all respect, there is no actual proof that those children are the product of surrogacy arrangements. And I need to emphasize that for legal reasons. You can speculate, and there is no doubt that Meghan's conduct has enhanced the speculation in the most unfortunate manner. One could actually say that Meghan's conduct is entirely responsible for the subject having arisen. But that is not the same thing as proof. So, bearing that in mind, I am not prepared to say now or in the future that she was lying about being pregnant. Because remember, she's claimed to have been pregnant 3 times. Once with Archie, once with Lily, and shortly before Lily with the baby that she lost when she was holding Archie in her arms, and she dropped to the floor, and she emulated Julia Roberts in that movie, and she sang a lullaby as she was gripped with pain and losing the baby, and noticed a crayon that the maid had missed. So it's 3 pregnancies. But until such time as you, Carefree Delight, can prove that she was inventing the whole thing, I would recommend, for legal reasons, that we give her the benefit of the doubt to the extent that we say the rumours are there, the speculation is there, but there is no proof, and therefore, in the absence of proof, you cannot make such a bold assertion. However, if it turned out that she did have surrogacy arrangements. This would, and I'm not saying this happened, by the way, but I'm answering your question. And if it turned out that she did have surrogacy arrangements, and it turned out that she was padding to experience the joys of pregnancy and identifying with the baby as if she had been pregnant, this would certainly be a very neat way of garnering or silencing, I was going to say garnering sympathy, but I would actually say of muzzling some, if not all, of the criticism that would naturally devolve upon her should such an unfortunate scenario be proven to be factual. But we need to be careful in life to not assert as a fact something that is mere speculation, especially when dealing with somebody like Meghan, who is very attention-seeking, very clever and very imaginative at coming up with attention-grabbing scenarios and introducing doubt and speculation on a daily basis. We don't really know where the truth lies. And in the absence of knowing where it lies, we cannot assert that X is a fact or Y is a fact and Z is not a fact. So, Julia Hubbard says, my money is on MM being a cis female. Anything else is wishful thinking. Julia Hubbard, you are absolutely entitled to your opinion and I would never deprive you of it. Helen Daniel says, the issue of sexual identity is very sensitive and it has been dealt with very well in this post. Thank you very much. I tried to do the topic justice and you are one of many, many people who said that I did. Of course, we also had one or two crazies coming up with all sorts of stupidities, but, you know, where there's an idiot, there's a way to perdition. So, however, it is completely separate from the subject of character. It certainly is. Because no matter what identity issues one might have had, character is completely separate from sexual identity. Meghan's behaviour has little to do with any real or imagined quirks in her DNA. Her actions have been entirely of her own choice, I would agree with that, and are nobody's fault, in quotation marks, but her own. They are certainly her choice and therefore her responsibility. Whether she has had identity problems, and this is all pure speculation, it certainly is. There is no excuse for the way she has treated other people. Morality is not determined by your chromosomes. No, it is not. Nor is decency. Nor is the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Nor is being punitive when loving kindness would be a more constructive way of proceeding. Nor is destructiveness under the guise of victimhood when womaning up, embracing your fate, accepting your responsibilities to yourself and to others, and becoming, insofar as is possible, a constructive and valuable human being, aiming for either understanding or harmony, and preferably both. Those are all a matter of choice. In life, we choose to either be good and kind and decent people, or to be the opposite. And it has absolutely nothing to do with hormones or chromosomes. Cathy W. says, thank you for your genuine, deep diving topic. You are a true gift. Oh, I say, thank you. Since Meghan seems to be a pathological liar, well, she certainly is an ace embroiderer, and I would say that if you say she's a pathological liar, her conduct has certainly led to that conclusion where you are concerned. Since Meghan seems to be a pathological liar, there are huge risks with all these alleged stories. There certainly are. Even if coming directly from her. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Even if it was 100% sure her own saying, it could have been only for attention. So true. Who knows? She lives this life of forever most victim of the world. Yeah, absolutely. A professional victim. Come on, Nikki, you can come up. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Nikki wants to come up. Who knows? She lives this life of forever most victim of this world. She wants attention for whatever cost. Sometimes I think she puts out stuff just to be able to fight it later on for suing money. Well, that's certainly one way of looking at it. And she certainly does advance theories, and she's also has had them advanced on her behalf, that if not for suing people, has been for obtaining financial or other material and or worldly rewards. Because let's remember, international attention is also a worldly reward, as indeed is media attention. Jojo says, GB News interviewed Thomas Markle, and he said he watched your channel and it inspired him to start his own channel. What do I think of that? I didn't see Mr. Markle being interviewed on GB News. I think GB News is pretty good. It at least is trying to redress the balance. And I think we do need more balanced news. So I'm all in favour of GB News' existence. And I'm delighted if I inspired him to start his own channel. Everything I have heard about Mr. Markle is to the good. From everybody except information that came via his daughter and her husband. What can I say? I'm delighted he was inspired, and I hope that he will get out of it what he wants and needs. Also I should say, several people have told me that he said that he would like to appear on a show with me. Well, I'm absolutely delighted if he wishes to get in touch with me. I don't know how to get in touch with him, but it's quite easy to get in touch with me. and if he wishes to get in touch with me, I would be delighted to discuss the possibility of interviewing him, because he has my sympathy and my respect. This picture 84 says, "Good afternoon, Lady C. I have been reading about the service at Westminster Abbey for Dame Vera Lynn." Now, to those of you who don't know who Dame Vera Lynn is, she died at over 100. She was a very famous singer. She was a famous wartime singer. She did "We'll Meet Again," which is a beautiful, wonderful, poignant song. It was one of her great hits. And she was a huge star well into her 80s. I actually used to be friendly with her daughter Virginia in the 70s. We had a great friend in common called Marianne Inniscar, who introduced us. Sadly, Marianne died of cancer aged 48. Many years ago. She was married to Robert Armstrong, the famous horse race trainer, whose sister Susan was Lester Piggott, the famous jockey's first wife. And so very racing, very racing. And I met Dame Vera once or twice. She was a lovely, lovely woman. And she died quite recently, and Virginia organised the service at Westminster Abbey, which was a huge event. So I will continue. To those of you who didn't know who Dame Vera Lynn is, she was a wartime singer, entertainer, and heroine of sorts. Westminster Abbey for Dame Vera Lynn, which took place today. I am very disappointed that there wasn't a royal present at this service. I understand that they are very busy, particularly in this Platinum Jubilee year. But is this a stark example of the drawbacks of a slimmed down monarchy? In this case, I don't see why one of the Kents couldn't have attended, and I'm disappointed they didn't. But in the not so distant future, we will surely see many events like today's without a royal. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for your wonderful videos. Thank you. Well, the royals wouldn't have attended. No, normally the royals don't attend funerals or memorial services. They send representatives. Very, very rarely will they attend either a funeral or a memorial service. It usually involves a very close friend or relation. So that's worth considering. Also, it would have been up to Virginia to ask them. Then they would have sent in a query or a private secretary or a lady in waiting. I don't know is the answer. In the olden days, not so long ago, when everybody read the Times and the Telegraph, you would attend funerals and memorial services, and there was always a reporter standing outside taking the names of people who attended. And then they would publish the list of attendees beneath the court circular. But I think those days have passed, sadly. So, but your point is an interesting one, because the slimmed down monarchy might have a problem. Anna Minor says, "Dear Lady C, love your channel always, watch it. My question for you today is this. Have you or any of your friends or acquaintances ever entertained the idea that Harry and Meghan's comments about who may have mentioned the colour of Archie's skin never actually happened. No one ever made any such comment, and it was only said in that interview as a means to promote the racist rhetoric that Meghan wanted to throw at the monarchy to maintain her and Harry's journey to fame and world notoriety and bring down the monarchy while they were at it. Well, I don't think that, in fairness to them, that their purpose is, or her purpose is, to bring down the monarchy. Although I suppose if that happy occurrence were to occur, she might crack open a bottle of Krug. But in fact, I think you have hit the nail, if not exactly on the head, very close to the head. Because my understanding was that nobody actually made a comment along the lines of what Meghan was presenting to Oprah. I said it at the time. I said what I was told, and who I was told had expressed reservations about Meghan, not on the grounds of colour, but on the grounds of character. And in any event, as literally tens of thousands of people have written in on this site in the comment section to say that they are people of colour, and it is perfectly normal to speculate about what the child is going to look like and what colour skin it might have, what colour eyes, what colour hair. And it even happens with Caucasians. If one's dark and one's fair, it happens, I would imagine, in all families, unless the husband and wife look so much alike that there is no room for speculation. But if there is any difference whatsoever, I think there will be speculation. And yes, I think it's a safe bet that nobody said what they stated was said in the way they stated it was said. And remember, they couldn't even agree as to what was said or when it was said and how often it was said. Harry had it taking place once before the wedding. Meghan had it taking place repeatedly during her pregnancy. Tina Stahl says, "Dear Lady C, I love your insightful commentary and straightforward, no-nonsense approach. Thank you. It's the only way to lead a life. No woolly thinking and no self-indulgence. And, emotion has its place, but not when you are analytical and assessing a situation dispassionately. I've been an avid subscriber since you began your videos." Ooh, thank you. "But I have a question I would really appreciate your opinion on. It's Wednesday today, and it was announced on This Morning today that ITV, in conjunction with other channels, will be broadcasting a concert to raise funds for the Ukrainian crisis. Great idea." Yes, it is a great idea. I thought, but it's to be shown on, great idea, I thought, but it's to be shown on the 29th March, which, as you will be aware, is the same day as Prince Philip's memorial service. No mention was made of the service. I feel that ITV are being extremely disrespectful to Her Majesty the Queen I've emailed Dame Caroline McCall to lodge my complaint and received a cursory response from one of her employees. No surprise there, my dear. The woman is left of Lenin. I mean, honestly, and no particular monarchist. And it's not only disrespectful to the Queen, it's also disrespectful to Prince Philip, who dedicated nearly 80 years of his life to the British nation. But I suppose that doesn't count if your face doesn't fit, and it certainly doesn't where she, Dame Caroline McCall, is concerned. I pointed out to McCall how disrespectful I thought it was, especially as she has an OBE and is a dame. She's willing to accept the honours bestowed upon her by Her Majesty, yet shows scant regard for our monarch by allowing this clash to proceed. I fear much of the media are indeed Republicans and aren't bothered at all about the preservation of our constitutional monarchy. There are a few decent reporters out there, but so many, including the mainstream media, are just unwilling to call out the poor behaviour of the Sussexes. I fear that once our beloved Queen dies, that it won't take long before they get their way. Look at the way McCall was quick to support Markle's complaint against Piers Morgan, even before Ofcom exonerated him. I feel despair. What are your thoughts on the matter? Well, I've made it known quite clearly from before this that I have absolutely no respect or regard for Dame Caroline McCall. I have had personal experience of Dame Caroline McCall's pusillanimous and arrogant and woke and unenlightened and illiberal and ruthless ways of operating. Fully 60% of the print medium in this country is Republican. What percentage of the broadcasting medium would be is open to conjecture. But the BBC and ITV have a large segment of their employees, and they also have the zeitgeist, shall we say, to be polite, of Republicans. Yes, it's disrespectful, it's unappreciative, but they don't care. They want to be rid of the monarchy so that they can elect one of their representatives as president. Well, there will go the great out of Great Britain. I mean, can you imagine President McCall? I mean, such a joke. Maybe even President Beckham. But of course, a lot of these people will take any goodie that's offered. No loyalty to a cause that they don't agree with, but happy to take the benefits of the system and gorge themselves upon the benefits. I mean, can you imagine Meghan and Harry actually had the goal to get in touch with the media, the broadcasting media, and say they didn't want any middle-aged white men dealing with the interview? If that's not racist, I don't know what is. it's also ageist. Jed says, "Dear Lady C, I love your show and watch it faithfully. I see Commander Jephson, Princess Diana's former private secretary, has rightly been paid a substantial sum of taxpayers' money following the exposure of Martin Bashir's underhand dealings. Do you think this is another nail in the coffin for the BBC, and will this open the way for others to sue? Indeed, could either of the princes sue the BBC? Love to Mickey and the Whoppies. Mix?" Jed sends love. Mickey says she's chilling. Well, yes, we the taxpayer are forced by law to buy licenses to support the BBC. If we don't, we'll go to prison. People go to prison for refusing to buy their licenses. That's to what extent this is onerous. So it's our money. But it's quite right that our money should compensate Patrick Jephson, because he was defamed in the most appalling manner. Absolutely dreadful, appalling, awful manner. Do I think it's another nail in the coffin of the BBC? I'm not sure that it is. Change takes place slowly, and it's a cumulative process. And only when the public become dissatisfied with the way the BBC is behaving to such an extent that they will do something about it, will the BBC then do something about it, unless the government does something about it. And this government seems somewhat willing, but let's see if it's all bluster and if anything comes of it or not. As for the princes suing the BBC, well, Harry can do anything and is perfectly capable of doing anything. William is not going to sue the BBC, but maybe Harry should, and maybe Meghan should, because, Meghan's suffering is absolutely acute. Can you imagine the tremendous suffering Meghan has endured because of the dastardly way the BBC behaved over the Martin Bashir interview with her mother-in-law? Meghan's channeling Diana, and I'm sure that Meghan is totally traumatized by what happened to Diana. Maybe she should sue as well. Larumba says, "A very British scandal was made by the BBC and broadcast on BBC One." Thank you very much. That, of course, is the program that I alluded to in a previous broadcast about my parents-in-law divorce. And I said BBC, then I thought maybe it was ITV, I didn't remember. And quite frankly, I'm much too busy and have much too much on my plate to care about remembering whether it was on the BBC or ITV. But thanks for setting me straight. I do appreciate it. And I'm sure you can appreciate why to me it's a matter of complete insignificance and indifference whether it was on one rattletrap television station or another. I.K. Rachel says, "Another question. Why would your father-in-law consider a baby imported from Poland any more entitled to the dukedom than his sons, even though he questioned whether he was their father? He would certainly know for sure that the baby from Poland was not fathered by him. unless it was all based on punishment for his then wife, in which case, why would she go along with such a plan? Ha ha! I love these stories. What a colourful world you come from. Sometimes, my dear, rather too colourful for comfort, let me tell you. All these fascinating and interesting stories that get made into television programs and are fodder for the press and are written about in books. It's no picnic living it. Take it from me. You know what I'm talking about. It's no picnic at all. And you, my dear, have actually explained something to me that had eluded me since 1974, when my sister-in-law, Jeannie, first told me about the bastardy case. Because Jeannie didn't realise, and I never twigged until I read this, that of course Big Ian used this. I mean, I knew he used it advantageously once the whole thing was exposed, but it didn't occur to me that he invented the whole thing to nail Margaret. And you're absolutely right. I bet he did. The truth bell has rung, and it's never rung before with this matter, because I just accepted what Jeannie told me and what Margaret told me. And it made sense, but this makes absolute sense. He entrapped Margaret to get the £250,000 that he thought she would be obliged to pay him after he had entrapped her the way he did. But she wouldn't pay him. Hence the ghastly divorce, and of course, it cost her a lot more than just £250,000, not only financially, but in every other way as well. Reputationally, she was traumatized for the rest of her life. Yeah, you know, the problem with very devious and manipulative people is even when you know that they have been devious and manipulative, sometimes the motive eludes you until some dispassionate observer or somebody who's not involved says something or asks the sort of question that you have just asked. Yes, you're absolutely right. He invented the whole thing not to delegitimize little Ian and Colin, but to nail Margaret to the cross. Brilliant. Evil, but brilliant. Thank God I got out of that family when I did. My life would have even been more blighted than it was. And on that note, I would say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and please keep the questions coming in. This can't be done without you. God bless and goodbye.